Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, President Donald Trump has said that negotiators are getting closer to a Ukraine peace deal after he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at his Florida resort, though he acknowledged that thorny issues remain and declined to provide a concrete timeline for when they might be resolved. We'll be talking about that on the show.
Also on World DNA, Yemen's Houthi rebels have warned that any Israeli presence in Somaliland would be considered a target, issuing an open threat to Israel after Israel became the first country to officially recognize the self-proclaimed nation of Somaliland, drawing major backlash. Also, Netanyahu has arrived in Florida for talks with Donald Trump. We'll bring you the latest on that. Let's start with the headlines.
We discussed a lot of points, and I do think we're getting a lot closer, maybe very close.
U.S. President Donald Trump says a deal to end Ukraine-Russia war is closer than ever, but some thorny issues remain after meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Florida.
We have great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed, and US-Ukraine security guarantees, 100% agreed.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says a roadmap for peace based on US-led 20-point framework is about 90% agreed, says that President Trump will host European leaders and the Ukrainian delegation for a meeting next month.
President Trump dials Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin ahead of meeting Zelensky. Kremlin says both leaders do not support a European-Ukrainian push for a temporary ceasefire ahead of settlement.
Yemen's Houthi rebels warn that any Israeli presence in Somaliland would be considered a target. Israel is the first country to officially recognize the strategically positioned self-proclaimed Somaliland.
First of all, Prime Minister Albin Kurti's party wins more than half of the votes in Sunday's elections, opening the way to create a new government after a year-long political deadlock. Kurti's party fell short of a majority in an early election held in February.
At least 13 people were killed and nearly 100 others injured when a train partially derailed in southern Mexico.
Flight operations, train service hit in parts of North India due to dense fog. Orange alert issued for Delhi. Domestic airlines issue passenger advisories. Delhi airport working under CAT3 conditions.
Silver pulls back slightly after surging to record highs above $80 an ounce in a historic year-end rally as traders booked profits.
And while U.S. President Donald Trump has said that a deal to end the Russia-Ukraine war is closer than ever,
but he reported no apparent breakthrough on the flashpoint issues of territory after new talks with the warring countries' leaders. Zelensky arrived at Mar-a-Lago early on Sunday afternoon as Russian air raids piled pressure on Kyiv. Russia hit the capital and other parts of Ukraine with hundreds of missiles and drones, knocking out power and heat in parts of Kyiv.
I don't have deadlines. You know what my deadline is? Getting the war ended. I don't have deadlines. You agree with that?
Well, much like when Zelensky last met Trump in October, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke shortly beforehand with his U.S. counterpart on call, while Trump, addressing the media, insisted that both sides were serious about peace.
We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then when President Putin was close and he wasn't. You saw that in the White House. But I think they both want to see it happen.
The current plan, revised after weeks of intense US-Ukrainian negotiations, would stop the war at the current front lines in the eastern Donbass region and set up demilitarized areas, while Russia has long demanded territorial concessions. Trump offered to address the Ukrainian parliament to promote the plan.
Well, I think the land you're talking about, some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months. And you're better off making a deal now.
Well, after the talks, Zelensky and Trump spoke jointly by telephone with key European leaders who have been particularly alarmed about any decisions that would embolden Russia. Zelensky and the European leaders took to social media to thank Trump and welcome progress made on peace negotiations.
Zelensky said that the peace framework laid out by Trump was 90% agreed and that US-Ukraine security guarantees 100% agreed. It showed Zelensky's openness to the revised US plan, marking Kyiv's most explicit acknowledgement yet of possible territorial concessions, although Ukrainian voters would need to approve it in a referendum. By contrast, Russia has shown no signs of compromise as it sees hope in the grinding gains it has made over 4 years against Ukrainian defenses.
Now, the Kremlin is in its readout of talks between Putin and Trump called on Kyiv to make a brave decision and immediately withdraw troops from Donbass, casting European leaders as the impediment to peace. Well, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Charles Kupchan live from Washington, D.C. He's the Senior Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on this show. Well, let's begin by talking about this. How positive, again, it looks, because this has happened before. It looks like it's a repeat. Somehow we see 100% security guarantees, but tough issues are still remaining. How positive does it look as of now?
You know, I think both leaders put a positive spin on the meeting. And clearly, I think Zelensky is trying to keep Trump on side and forge an agreement with Trump that the United States could then take to the Russians. But it doesn't appear that these conversations today led to any clear breakthrough on the key issues that separate Ukraine and Russia, including whether the Russians will convince the Ukrainians to voluntarily withdraw from that part of Donbass that Russia doesn't yet control, over the status of the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, which the Russians control, but the Ukrainians want to get back up and running, get power. And even though we're told that, yes, there is an agreement on security guarantees for Ukraine, and that's very important, because I think if Zelensky is going to sell to the Ukrainian Republic, to the Ukrainian public, some kind of withdrawal from Donbass, he needs to offer something in return. What is that in return? Security guarantees. But what those look like, who's going to put boots on the ground, whether the United States Senate will be asked to ratify these security guarantees, a lot of balls remain up in the air.
Dr. Kupchan, Donald Trump said that either it's going to end soon or it's going to go on for a long time. Is peace now hinged upon Ukraine agreeing to those land concessions? Because Russia has already made it clear that a political decision from Kyiv on Donbass is what is going to end hostilities. How do you see that?
Well, I think clearly Zelensky has gotten the message that Putin is making territorial demands that could potentially bring this war to an end. And Zelensky has come up with a creative proposal of, well, we'll withdraw, but what will remain is a demilitarized zone. And you will also withdraw your forces from the same amount of land that we withdraw from. Do I think that the Russians are going to say yes to this proposal? No, I do not. And that's because Putin has made it quite clear that he wants Russia to control all of Donbass, and about 20 to 25% of Donetsk remains under Ukrainian control. Several 100,000 Ukrainians live there. And it's unclear, I think, that you're going to get an agreement, a ceasefire, unless and until the Ukrainians are prepared to cede that territory. They're not there yet, but Ukrainians are not in a great position now. There's a corruption scandal, they're short on manpower, they're short on money, they're short on weapons.
So, I mean, of course, now that you mentioned that, it almost looks like now Zelensky has to agree to it. But then when we talk about the constitution that he has been mentioning, will that allow Ukraine to actually cede these territories then?
Well, what Zelensky has said is that he's going to take this issue to a referendum. He's going to ask the Ukrainian people to vote on this question of the voluntary withdrawal from that part of Donbass not yet controlled by Russia. And that's where I think the security guarantees do come in, because the Ukrainians have lost hundreds of thousands of people defending this territory. They're not going to want to give up this land voluntarily after putting up such a fight, losing so many soldiers. And I think that's where Zelensky is going to have to make the case that this kind of sacrifice is worth it, because after we make the deal, the 80% of Ukraine that is on the other side of that ceasefire line will be free, secure, and enjoying security guarantees from the United States and Europe.
Well, all developments seem to be hinting that it's going to be Ukraine who will have to eventually, sooner or later, come to just saying yes to what Trump is going to be putting out on the table. We'll need to wait and watch how long it takes and how long it's going to take for the fighting to eventually stop on the front lines. Dr. Charles Kupchan, thanks so much for joining us here on World DNA. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Good night.
All right. From one war front to the other, let's now shift focus to West Asia and the developments there. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has arrived in Florida for talks with the US President.
Well, both the leaders are set to discuss the next steps for the Gaza truce plan. And this will be the 6th meeting between the two leaders this year and the 5th in the U.S. The meeting is scheduled at Trump's Mar-a-Lago's estate at about 3:30 p.m. local time, as Washington looks to create fresh momentum for a U.S.-brokered ceasefire in Gaza that could be in danger of stalling out before a complicated second phase. A wide range of regional issues are expected to be discussed, including Iran, talks on an Israel-Syria security agreement, the ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the next phase of Gaza deal.
In the meantime, Israel, Greece and Cyprus, they have signed a trilateral work plan for military cooperation for 2026. And this is in a move that further deepens security coordination among Turkey's regional rivals in the Eastern Mediterranean. According to the IDF, the agreement also includes bilateral work plans between the IDF, Greece Hellenic Armed Forces and Cyprus National Guard, and covers joint exercises and training, working groups and strategic military dialogue on shared security challenges.
Well, Netanyahu had hosted Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis and Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides in Jerusalem last week in a bid to deliver a pointed message towards Ankara.
On the other hand, Hezbollah has accused Israel of failing to abide by a ceasefire agreement which was reached last year. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem said that the move to disarm the group in Lebanon was an Israeli-American plan, accusing Israel of failing to abide by a ceasefire agreement which they arrived at last year.
Disarmament is an Israeli-American plan to demand exclusive arms control while Israel is committing aggression and US is imposing its will on Lebanon, stripping it of its power, means that you are not working in Lebanon's interest, but rather in the interest of what Israel wants.
The Lebanese military, under US pressure, is expected to complete Hezbollah's disarmament south of the Litani River, located about 30 kilometers or 19 miles from the border with Israel, by the end of this year. Now, it is also expected to disarm the Iran-backed group in the rest of the country.
Well, parallel to this, Israel continues to build its arsenal of advanced weaponry to tackle incoming projectiles in its territory. On Sunday, Israel's defense ministry deployed a new Iron Beam laser system. Now, the system was delivered to the Air Force at a ceremony in northern Israel to help it intercept aerial threats.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said that the high-power laser interception system achieved full operational maturity and had successfully executed multiple interceptions, co-developed by Elbit Systems and Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. Iron Beam is a decade-old project of Israel.
Its induction was fast-tracked after a country's missile defense system failed to intercept all projectiles fired by Iran towards Israeli territory during the 12-day war in June. Israel has since acknowledged being hit by more than 50 missiles during the war with Iran, resulting in 28 deaths.
Breaking news coming in, a massive fire has broken out on a train in India's Andhra Pradesh.
Now, at least one person has died in this fire, and the fire engulfed two coaches of the Tatanagar-Ernakulam Superfast Express. In the wee hours of Monday in Anakpally district, the train was traveling from Tatanagar to Ernakulam, and reports say that a 70-year-old person has died in this fire.
According to initial reports, the pilot noticed flames and immediately halted the train. The fire reportedly started in a third AC coach. Railway staff swiftly detached the affected coaches from the rest of the train, and the train came to a stop at the nearest Yelamanchili station. Two coaches, M1 and B2, were completely gutted in the fire. A detailed inquiry has been ordered to ascertain the cause. There's breaking news coming in. A massive fire broke out on a train in India's Andhra Pradesh. At least one person has died in the fire. The fire engulfed two coaches of the Tatanagar-Ernakulam Superfast Express in the wee hours of Monday in Anakpally district.
Now, this train was traveling from Tatanagar to Ernakulam, and reports say that a 70-year-old person died in the fire. And according to initial reports, the pilot had noticed the flames, and he then immediately halted the train. The fire reportedly started in an AC third coach. Now, railway state swiftly detached the affected coaches from the rest of the train swiftly, and the train came to a stop at the nearest Yelamanchili station, and two coaches, that is M1 and B2, were completely gutted in this fire. Of course, now a detailed inquiry is in order, and this is to ascertain what was the cause of the fire. All right, moving on. Israel's move to recognize Somaliland has invited a warning from Yemen's Houthi rebels.
The Houthis have warned that any Israeli presence in the breakaway region, Somaliland, would be considered a target by the Houthis. Houthi chief Abdul Malik al-Houthi said that they will consider any Israeli presence in Somaliland a military target for their armed forces. The statement said that the Israeli presence constitutes aggression against Somalia and Yemen and a threat to the security of the region.
Israel on Friday had announced that it was officially recognizing Somaliland, a self-proclaimed republic that unilaterally separated from Somalia in 1991. The Houthi chief warned that the move carried grave consequences, saying recognition was a hostile stance targeting Somalia and its African surroundings, as well as Yemen, the Red Sea, and the countries along both shores of the Red Sea.
Take a look at the map here. Somaliland, it enjoys a strategic position on the Gulf of Aden and has its own money, its own passport, its own currency, and its own armed forces. Analysts believe that a rapprochement with Somaliland would provide Israel with better access to the Red Sea. They would have a military base here. That is what is expected to happen, enabling the IDF to hit Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Well, Israel repeatedly struck targets in Yemen after the Gaza war broke out in October 2023, and this was in response to the Houthi attacks on Israel that the rebels said were in solidarity with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Now, the Iran-backed Houthis have halted their attacks since a fragile truce began in Gaza in October.
And the United States is edging towards a direct military confrontation with Venezuela.
While sanctions, surveillance and troop deployments continue to shape Venezuela crisis and the regional geopolitics across Latin America. Now, in the past 3 months, the U.S. has ramped up its military presence near Venezuela with a range of advanced assets. And this includes MQ-9 Reaper drones from Puerto Rico, conducting surveillance, 10 CV-22 Osprey aircraft, a squadron of F-35B Lightning jets, 11 warships, including the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier. And Washington has also deployed 5 destroyers, 3 amphibious assault ships and P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft to monitor Venezuelan waters. The U.S. is also deploying F-22 Raptors and F-A-18 Hornets to assert power and gather intelligence, and around 15,000 U.S. military personnel are now in the region, ready for potential action near Venezuela.
The United States maintains multiple military assets across the Caribbean, Central America and Florida. The U.S. Southern Command is based in Florida and it oversees operations across Latin America and the Caribbean. Its focus includes counter-narcotics, intelligence gathering and humanitarian missions. U.S. naval and air patrols regularly monitor Venezuela's coastline from the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific.
And according to a recent report from the New York Times, Trump is pushing for a more aggressive stance against Venezuela. The report reveals that overlapping objectives drove the U.S. towards a militarized confrontation, and they include weakening Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, combating drug cartels, and securing Venezuela's vast oil reserves. Now, the Trump administration has ramped up military operations against Latin American drug cartels and intercepted Venezuelan oil tankers, leading to deadly clashes.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's economy remains deeply affected by U.S. sanctions, often called a blockade by Caracas. Venezuela's oil industry has also been hit hard by American actions. Moreover, hyperinflation, shortages of food and medicine, and power cuts continue to affect daily life in the South American nation. Millions of Venezuelans have fled the country in search of stability.
Now, Maduro accuses the United States of economic warfare. He blames sanctions for Venezuela's economic collapse and denies responsibility for the humanitarian crisis. Maduro also rejects U.S. support for opposition leaders, calling it foreign interference. Now, a Moscow court sentenced a former Russian diplomat to 12 years in a maximum security penal colony for passing secrets to U.S. intelligence.
Now, according to the Federal Security Service, the diplomat was found guilty of treason while on a posting to the U.S. The FSB, the main successor to the Soviet-era KGB, says that Arseny Konovalov proactively transferred secret information to American intelligence for monetary compensation. Russia's state news agency later released video footage showing Konovalov being detained while traveling in a van, appearing visibly shocked as officers informed him that he was suspected of treason. He was found guilty under Russia's treason statutes, one of the most serious criminal charges in the country.
Konovalov was detained by the FSB in March 2024 following what the agency described as a counterintelligence operation. The precise nature of the classified material that he is accused of passing to the U.S. intelligence is not known yet. Well, the sentencing comes amid heightened tensions between Russia and the United States, with both sides frequently accusing each other of espionage, cyber operations, and covert influence campaigns. All right, well, it's time for a very short break on World DNA, but don't go anywhere. No, lots lined up on the other side. China is rapidly and quietly transforming its nuclear weapons program. Satellite imagery reveals a sweeping overhaul of China's nuclear supply chain. We'll get you all the details on that story on the other side.
The Supreme Court of India is set to hear a plea challenging bail granted to former lawmaker Kuldeep Singh Sengar in the Unnao rape case. We will be bringing you the latest on that. Stay tuned.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur als Impostant.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with headlines.
At least one person dies in a major fire that broke out on a train in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Fire engulfed two coaches of Ernakulam Express.
Flight operations, train service hit in parts of North India due to dense fog. Orange alert issued for Delhi. Domestic airlines issue passenger advisories. Delhi airport working under Cat 3 conditions.
We discussed a lot of points, and I do think we're getting a lot closer, maybe very close.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the deal to end Ukraine-Russia war is closer than ever, but some thorny issues remain after meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Florida.
Great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed, and US-Ukraine security guarantees, 100% agreed.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says a roadmap for peace based on the US-led 20-point framework is about 90% agreed. Says President Trump will host European leaders and the Ukrainian delegation for a meeting next month.
Yemen's Houthi rebels warned that any Israeli presence in Somaliland would be considered a military target. Israel is the first country to officially recognize a strategically positioned self-proclaimed republic.
Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti's party wins more than half of the votes in Sunday's elections, opening the way to create a new government after a year-long political deadlock. Kurti's party fell short of a majority in an earlier election held in February.
At least 13 people killed and nearly 100 others injured when a train partially derailed in southern Mexico.
Oil prices rise as markets react to the prospects of stronger Chinese demand after Beijing promises broader fiscal support next year and Ukraine peace talks.
World number one, Magnus Carlsen, underlines his dominance by clinching a record-extending sixth world rapid title. Indian Jyamarjan earns bronze, while Koneru Hampi takes bronze in the women's section.
The nuclear arms race is heating up. China is rapidly and quietly transforming its nuclear weapons program.
And it's expanding secret facilities, modernizing warhead production, and also moving towards a faster, more offensive nuclear posture. Satellite imagery analyzed by international experts reveals a sweeping overhaul of China's nuclear supply chain, or from plutonium core production to high explosive testing and possible warhead assembly.
The expansion has been underway since around 2019 but accelerated sharply after 2021, paralleling the construction of hundreds of missile silos in China's northern deserts. According to a recent Pentagon report, China's nuclear warhead count is now in the low 600s. Production has slowed since 2024, but Beijing is on track to cross 1,000 warheads by the end of this decade.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that China could close the gap with American nuclear capabilities within 5 years. The United States still has an estimated 3,700 warheads.
Now, the most alarming shift is how China may use these weapons. One of the most significant locations is in Sichuan province near the city of Pingtong. And this is believed to be China's only plutonium pit production facility, the heart of a nuclear warhead.
And another critical site is in Zhejiang County, which is also in Sichuan. This complex is believed to produce the high explosive components that trigger a nuclear blast.
China has also expanded its main nuclear test site at Lopnur in Xinjiang, adding underground tunnels and large shafts that could support future testing. Beijing has not conducted a nuclear test since 1996, but has never ratified the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty.
Well, for decades, Beijing maintained a policy of delayed retaliation, launching only after absorbing an attack. The Pentagon says this policy is shifting. China has deployed early warning satellites, long-range radars, and rapid command systems capable of launching missiles within minutes.
More than 100 ICBMs are believed to have been loaded into silos to support this system. As great power rivalry deepens, the quiet construction seen from space could shape the next global nuclear standoff.
And while political tensions continue to mount in Pakistan.
Jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan has called for a nationwide movement against his arrest. Responding to the call, PTI is mobilizing its supporters in Lahore. Imran Khan's close confidant and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Sohail Afridi is leading this charge. He is currently in Punjab, where PTI has organized a mass movement early in the day.
Now, Sohail Afridi was stopped from entering Lahore's cantonment zone, which is a major military garrison and upscale residential area. He was barred from the entry despite being accompanied by elected assembly members as well as PTI supporters.
यही मैं पूछ रहा था इनसे कि मतलब यहाँ पर पाकिस्तान खत्म हो रहा है, यहाँ से कोई दूसरा मुल्क शुरू हो रहा है, तो इन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, ये पाकिस्तान ही है, लेकिन बहरहाल हमें यहाँ रोक दिया गया और आगे जाने की इजाज़त नहीं दे रहे.
Afridi has announced a rally at Minar-e-Pakistan, but a day before the scheduled protests, PTI was faced with a police crackdown. Pakistan police arrested over 1,000 PTI supporters and blocked protest convoys in Lahore to prevent street demonstrations. The showdown is the latest in a series of efforts by PTI to amp up pressure on Pakistani government.
Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi have been convicted in Toshakhana case. They are facing a sentence of 17 years. Husband and wife have vowed to challenge the conviction in the Islamabad High Court as well.
Imran Khan has been in jail for over 2 years now. He is facing multiple criminal cases, with the PTI saying that these are politically motivated against Imran Khan. And they are the result of what they call Asim law in Pakistan, referring to the country's Chief of Army Staff, Asim Munir. As the political tensions continue to grow, Pakistan People's Party Chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has urged calm.
And during a rally in Sindh, he said political reconciliation should take place under his father's leadership and opposition parties should practice responsible politics.
He also cautioned that incidents like the May 9th attacks have no place in politics and urged Pakistan government to work in national interest. News from India. The Supreme Court of India is set to hear a plea challenging the bail granted to former lawmaker Kuldeep Singh Sengar in the Unnao rape case.
And CBI has challenged a Delhi High Court order to suspend the life sentence of the expelled BJP leader. Ahead of the hearing, protests were held in Delhi. Demonstrators gathered at the Jantar Mantar, raising slogans and holding placards. The survivor also joined the protest, saying the High Court order has stalled Sengar's punishment.
मांगे कि मुझे सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे भरोसा है कि मुझे न्याय देगा।
तरीके से रुक कर रही है, एसएलपी डाल
अगर ये चीज़ पहले करती तो मुझे न्याय मिलता, उनकी बेल खारिज होती, ताकि हमारे साथ उन्होंने गलत किया, रेप किया, उसके बाद मेरे पिता को मार दिया, परिवार की सुरक्षा हटा दी, पैरोकारों की, गवाहों की सुरक्षा हटा दी, जो मेरे केस में खास इम्पोर्टेंट जमानत ले रखा है, उनको खतरा बना हुआ है हर तरीके से। मेरे बच्चे हैं, मेरे हस्बैंड की जॉब छूट गई है, नौकरी से निकाल दिया गया, मेरे बच्चे असुरक्षित घर में पड़े हैं, क्योंकि खतरा बढ़ा, अगर उनको दबाना होगा तो मेरे बच्चे उठा लेंगे।
The CBI's challenge will be heard by a Supreme Court bench comprising Chief Justice Surya Kant, Justices J.K. Maheshwari and Augustine George Massey. As per the Apex Court's cause list for December 29th, the top court will also hear a separate petition filed by the victims' advocates against Delhi High Court's order in the case.
Now, the Delhi High Court on December 23rd had suspended the jail term of Sengar, stating that a former BJP lawmaker has already served 7 years and 5 months in prison. The court has suspended his jail term till the pendency of his appeal challenging his conviction and sentence. Sengar, who is serving a life sentence in the Unnao rape case, has challenged a December 2019 trial court verdict in the case. Although Sengar will remain imprisoned as he continues to serve 10 years in the custodial death case of the victim's father.
The Central Bureau of Investigation has challenged the High Court order, calling it contrary to law. The CBI argues that the Delhi High Court wrongly held that Sengar, who was a sitting MLA at the time, was not a public servant. Under India's child protection law, the POCSO Act, the investigators say that lawmakers hold constitutional authority and public trust. So any misuse of that power must qualify for the legal definition of aggravated sexual assault.
The CBI has also flagged serious safety concerns for the survivor. It says Sengar remains highly influential with financial and political clout, and he poses risks despite his bail conditions.
In June 2017, four-time MLA Sengar was accused of gang rape along with his associates. The survivor's family claims that despite a first information report (FIR), the police inaction allowed the accused to intimidate them. In 2018, the complainant's father died in police custody.
He was desperate for justice. The survivor attempted self-immolation outside the chief minister's residence. In 2019, a truck rammed into the survivor's car and 2 of her aunts were killed. The Supreme Court then transferred the case to Delhi, and Sengar was eventually convicted. Now, the killing of a young man from Tripura in Uttarakhand, allegedly following a racially motivated attack, has triggered nationwide outrage.
Angel Chakma, a 24-year-old MBA student, died last week after battling for his life for 17 days after he was brutally attacked in early December. 5 youths have been arrested in connection with the case, including 2 minors.
According to Uttarakhand ADGP Law and Order V. Murugesan, an argument broke out between some locals, the victim and his brother at a restaurant, following which the brothers were attacked. He further added that one accused, Ayagya Avasthi, a native of Nepal, is yet at large and a non-bailable warrant has been issued for his arrest. A cash reward of 25,000 rupees have also been announced.
Regarding this unfortunate incident, the police have taken immediate action and arrested all the criminals involved. One is still at large, and all efforts are being made to apprehend him. A reward of 25,000 rupees has been announced, and teams have been formed. Chief Minister has instructed all district superintendents of police to ensure the complete safety and security of all individuals from the northeastern states who are living, working, or studying here.
And Tripura Chief Minister Manik Saha said that he spoke to his Uttarakhand counterpart Pushkar Singh Dhami, who assured him that justice would be ensured for the victim. He added that all possible support would be provided to the victim's family.
However, the victim's father, a BSF personnel, alleged that local police initially refused to register an FIR in connection with the case. He also said that accused called his sons racial slurs and then attacked them with knives and blunt objects.
Meanwhile, protests and candlelight marches were held across Tripura by various indigenous student and youth organizations demanding strict action against the perpetrators and immediate intervention by the central government to address rising racial violence against northeastern people.
People of Tripura protest.
Myanmar's junta-run elections are underway as civil war rages on in the country.
And this is, of course, marking its 5th year. The first round of voting is closed. However, young voters were largely absent as tightly controlled polling began on Sunday. And critics and United Nations say this election is designed to prolong military rule.
Now, let's talk about the Sunday's voter turnout. The turnout appears slightly lower than the previous elections. At several polling stations, fewer than 1/3 of the registered voters cast their ballots. Unlike young voters, older citizens dominated the queues, and this is because young people cited fear, displacement and lack of faith in the process.
With every 5-year change of government, I vote as a citizen, hoping that the country will improve.
I don't think there will be any changes. I think this is for them, the junta, to change their soldier uniforms into civilian ones and to hold on to their power.
Now, voting is taking place only in junta-controlled areas. Nearly 1 in 5 constituencies will see no polling at all, and this is due to the ongoing fighting with rebel groups. The election will be held in 3 phases, with the final round scheduled for January 25th.
Jailed leader and Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy party, they are not taking part in these polls. Aung San Suu Kyi's party, which won a landslide victory in Myanmar in 2020, it has been dissolved by the military now. The pro-junta Union Solidarity and Development Party, instead, is widely expected to emerge as the largest bloc this time.
Now, junta chief Minong Hilaing casted his vote in Naypyidaw. He insisted the election was free and fair and urged citizens to participate. But the United Nations say Myanmar's future must be decided through a free, fair, inclusive and credible process.
Meanwhile, dozens of protesters hold placards denouncing Myanmar's sham election, quote-unquote, outside its embassy in Tokyo. Myanmar has seen civil war since the 2021 coup. An estimated 90,000 people have been killed since then, while millions have been displaced. As voting continues into January, critics say that the election risks entrenching military rule rather than restoring democracy.
And as we head into 2026, the global trading system is encountering challenges to both stability and growth.
One changing current is the decrease in US inbound volumes. Another is the strong increase in imports into India, West Asia, Africa and Latin America. We decode that and more in this next report. Take a look.
The global trading system enters a new era fraught with greater threats to its growth and security. Under Trump 2.0 as seen this year, still international trade in goods continue to do reasonably well. That is despite President Trump's efforts to create a tariff wall around the world's biggest economy. October saw a 2.1% increase in global container volumes compared to the previous year. Yet, beneath the overall resilience are shifting undercurrents. The US saw an 8% contraction in inbound volumes. On the other hand, imports into Africa, West Asia, Latin America and India showed robust growth. In 2026, experts predict more trade uncertainty from possible shocks to global supply chains. The US review of trade deals has the potential to disrupt and reshape global commerce even further. In 2026, the US Supreme Court will decide on the validity of Trump's reciprocal tariffs. That decision is likely to lead to adjustments in the administration's tariff powers and chaotic refunds for American importers. Betting markets have given a 75% chance of a Trump loss. Shipping industry veteran John McCown in a LinkedIn post, said that Trump's trade threats were among the key reasons for the rewiring of shipments this year. He added, if 2025 was the year of the tariff, then 2026 will be the year of tariff consequences. Broadly, analysts bet on supply chain disruptions similar to those experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, one positive expectation is the return of the world's cargo fleet to using the Red Sea. This change would potentially save big costs from the current longer route around southern Africa. On trade itself, high on the White House's list of 2025 accomplishments are deals with several major economies. Most of those deals were bent to Trump's demands, ranging from investment pledges to better market access for US exports. What was clear was the brashness in the approach. If countries agreed to those terms, their goods were smacked with a tariff rate that was lower than the duty on those who retaliated. But the real problem is that these deals are not traditional, binding agreements. Enforcement provisions and fine print spelling out the rules are not clear. There's only a one-year truce with China rather than a full agreement. So a full-blown escalation in a renewed trade war cannot be written off. That is especially true given the potential for pressure from Beijing against any nation open to working with Washington at China's expense. Malaysia and Cambodia experienced that with the trade deal signed with Washington. China warned both nations against measures that undermine Beijing's interest. 2026 will not just be about the macro themes, but will go well beyond the traditional equations, politically and economically. Business Bureau WION, World is One.
All right, well, over to sports now. Algeria have booked their place in the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations.
Riyad Mahrez struck his third goal in 2 matches to help Algeria beat Burkina Faso 1-0 to reach the knockout stage. The 2019 champions came into the match after a dominant win over Sudan against Burkina Faso. Algeria broke the deadlock in the 23rd minute itself. They were awarded a penalty after Manchester City's Ryan Aït-Nouri was bundled over. Mahrez then made no mistake and converted from the spot. The former Leicester City and Manchester City winger now has 9 goals at the tournament, an Algerian record. Burkina Faso responded positively, twice threatening an equalizer before the interval. The Stallions continued to press after the break but did not manage an attempt on target until the 82nd minute. Despite their efforts, it was Algeria who remained dangerous, with Burkina Faso's goalkeeper producing a string of fine saves to deny the North Africans rapid counterattacks.
Now, the result leaves Algeria top of Group E with 6 points. Burkina Faso and Sudan are tied on 3 points and will face each other in their final group clash on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Algeria will take on bottom side Equatorial Guinea, who have already been eliminated.
Brigitte, Bardot, the 1950s sex symbol who famously walked away from cinema to become a fierce animal rights advocate, died at her home in Saint-Tropez.
Our foundation confirmed her passing but did not provide a cause of death. Bardot became a global sensation after the 1956 film And God Created Woman. She starred in roughly 50 films before retiring in 1973. Stating she was sick of being beautiful and wanted to escape the thronging crowd. In 1986, she founded the Brigitte Bardot Foundation. She spent her later years in silent solitude on the French Riviera, dedicating her fame and resources entirely to animal welfare.
While President Emmanuel Macron hailed her as a legend who embodied freedom, Bardot's later years were marked by sharp political shifts. She became a vocal supporter of the far right and was convicted 5 times for hate speech, specifically regarding her comments on Islam and immigration. In her final months, she remained a critic of modern France and requested a simple burial in her garden, the same treatment she gave her animals. To avoid the crowd, she sought to escape in life.
Now, following the news, grieving fans gathered outside her famous La Madrague estate to pay their respects, and supporters left bouquet of white roses and personal tokens near the property's blue gate, while some pointedly placed dog bowls filled with water at the entrance, a final nod to the woman who abandoned the spotlight to become the voice for the voiceless. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World DNA for today.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll step into a short break. Stay with us. This is WION World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. US President Donald Trump has said that a deal to end the Russia-Ukraine war is closer than ever, but reported no apparent breakthrough on flashpoint issue of territory after new talks with the warring countries' leaders. In a joint press conference, Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky indicated that there was near agreement on a US-Ukraine security agreement, but Trump said a few